I wrote my way.
When the world turned its back on me, I was up against the wall. Had no foundation, no friends or no family to catch my fall. There was nothing left in me but doubt. I picked up a pen and I wrote my way.
Mic check, mic check, mic check. We are back. I cut my way out. Podcast, celebration of barber culture, celebration of the barbers.
Absolutely. We're back at it again.
Yeah, and I am your gracious host at Kenneth Jinks on all social media platforms. My Facebook changes, depending on the day. But, and we're back. I'm joined by the man of the hour, the barber, the visionary.
Trying to be. Ashura Knox. You can follow me at _Knox the Barber 4 on IG. Also _Knox Beard Culture 4 again on IG. And of course, you can always follow us at Cut My Way Out _pod. All on Instagram platform. And you can follow me or friend me on Facebook as Ashura Knox.
All right. So how you been? I mean,
Man, I've been good, man.
We every other week had to get all the outlets going.
Right.
So just, for your consumption, we are in a lot of places. Shout out to Apple Podcasts. They got us up pretty quick. Normally they say 7 to 10 days, but I think it was more like 3.
Wow.
Spotify was up immediately. Definitely got the YouTube video up. The YouTube viewership was solid.
Right.
Definitely gonna keep growing and keep dropping episodes.
Absolutely. Follow us and on this journey. Support what we're doing.
We have a link in our bio in the Instagram where it's called Linktree. So click on that, and it's about 4 or 5 different outlets: Apple, YouTube, Instagram.
I know Stitcher was
Stitcher, Spotify. But Spreaker, Overcast, just Bing, Google, Yahoo, just put I Cut My Way Out podcast, and we may not be at the top because we still got to get some episodes under our belt, plural. So 2 would be plural. Absolutely. So you'll be able to find us rather easily. Mm-hmm. So let's get on to it. This is episode 2. And I made the mistake of calling it episode 2.
Right.
We don't want to do that. So we'll figure out a title for this episode. Last week it worked out pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
we'll kind of created its own title.
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna aim to do today.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So really we just want to continue our talk.
Right.
Definitely have some things in the works, for future episodes that we're very excited about. But we just want you to get to know us before we turn our platform over to a lot of visionaries, a lot of people that inspire us, and not just with the Clippers, but just entrepreneurial wise.
Right. Just grinding, cutting their way out of this situation.
Yeah. So, that definitely is that I commend you for that. That was definitely that's a sick title. I want to give a shout out. We got the logo. Definitely want to give a shout out to the brother that
AP Solutions Media author Purdue. He's cold on the graphic side. I was actually put on to him by JD Dillard, who's an entrepreneur, a barber. He's Country Wayne, the comedian's personal barber, and he and I linked up. started to communicate, man, and he's been inspiration, serving, as a mentor in certain aspects. And he put me on. I was looking for another graphic designer, with the whole beard culture thing and doing some things with that. And, my dad is the one who created the beard culture logo, and he does a great job. But, his advice was just to, make sure you always have a backup and be able to work with more than one person. So, yeah, AP is on Instagram. You can follow him if you need to get at him, do work. Very reasonable, man, very personable, approachable, and is just sick with his craft.
Yeah, when that came through, I was like, wow,
yeah.
That was sick.
Yeah, and basically, I called him and I said, hey, man, me and my guy, this is what we're doing. I said, I want the clippers, maybe a razor, something. This is the title. He said, say no more, bro.
That's what's up.
And took that vision in probably in 30 minutes. He had something put together, and then we went from there and he finalized it. So yeah, he's on IG at AP Media Solutions.
All right.
So get at him if you need any graphic.
All right. So yeah, so let's first and foremost, just want to thank everybody. I don't know about you. I think I know about you, but definitely some positive feedback. A lot of positive feedback from our first episode.
Absolutely.
And we had a lot of commenters, a lot of people that watched us on various platforms. Got our first 5-star rating. I couldn't see if the rater actually wrote something, but got a first 5-star rating. So on Apple Podcasts. So
that's new to me. I'm learning all about the podcast and the platform. So that's wonderful.
Download, subscribe, rate us.
Follow.
Give us feedback. Do all the above. Between both of us, somebody will get back to you, and man, you could be a special guest. We're gonna work out, Zoom. We got phone capabilities.
Right.
Maybe even go IG live and capture you. We open to any suggestions to try to get you barbers and visionaries on the show, just to dialogue and just keep the culture strong.
Right. And moving forward. And the thing that, I was explaining to people, they say, well, what is it about before they listen to it? I told them, we're celebrating the barber culture, but at the same time, it's for everybody because, the barbers reach everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that doesn't get groomed, and us as African Americans, so, we're definitely in the barbershops or at our barber, hairstylist, whatever it is, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. But, it's important to our culture. And so when you're talking about athletes, entertainers, professionals, kids, we deal with everybody. So we feel like, this podcast is relatable to everybody because everyone's had that barbershop experience. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so let's just continue the dialogue from our first show.
Okay.
As a customer, today was, kind of where I could come in here as a customer for many, many years, and just dialogue from the customer point of view. So I really would like to know. You talk about your passion and just the drive that you have, as opposed to not having it when you was in corporate America, like you said, making very good money. As a customer, like, does a customer help drive that passion, or is it just just the craft and the science of barbering?
I honestly think it's all incorporated together, right? Because you can't grow as a barber without the client. You guys are walking billboards. At one point in time, there was no social media, right? So, word of mouth was always the best way to advertise. So I think it's, a little bit of both. When you laid that client out and you get a client that's, smiling and you're boosting their self-esteem, as Los the Barber would say, they get up and they get out the chair walking bow-legged. so it's a little bit of it's a little bit of both, but the client does have a big part, to do with it, and you want to satisfy.
Yeah. And I kind of asked the question I kind of knew the answer to, but I just needed a what's it called? A icebreaker per se. So being in a shop, and one of the things that I like about just coming to right now, your situation, just coming to your house to get a haircut, is it'd be a lot of riffraff at times, sometimes, especially on busy days. And how do barbers kind of navigate, the riffraff, especially if you're in the hood and you're going to deal with the bullshit, people selling socks and drawers, or people, know they done stole some shit and trying to get it off at the barbershop, but yeah, you trying to maintain a sense of professionalism. And I mean, do you want to, is that?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, because I was, even though I've been cutting for a while, I'm also, been a client before I was cutting hair. And that's the beautiful thing, in our experiences being from the town that we're from. Rose and Taylor, growing up was always that barbershop where it was middle age, it was family oriented, and then we had, the barbershops that were for the younger crowd. I think the biggest thing is setting expectations and being consistent across the board, right? It's one thing when you jump off, and you go into the barbershop and, you're just by yourself and it's the guys and there are no women, there are no children, that type of thing. But, if you're not consistent and create expectations, then, what they say, you give a person an inch, they take a mile. So, I have been in some situations where, clients, would try to run amok, but that was one of the very positive things, in the barbershop. And I think, me coming into Rose and Taylor, Los had done a really good job of anchoring that and just kind of setting the tone, and don't get me wrong, we would have days, when, just the fellas in there, we talk and we laughing about what we do. But then, we're always able to change that up when kids or women or, professionals, and because there was an expectation set. So with that being said, you as a client, what kind of experiences have you had? Like, whether it was coming into our shop or just period, in terms of speaking to that?
Yeah, well, I think as I've gotten older, it's kind of hard to accept, but maybe I am. I always say the 18 to 35 demographic, still want the Jordans and the Yeezys, and and I'm not saying that I don't want to get fresh but I'm middle age. I would consider myself middle age. So I guess my expectations in what I seek have changed.
Right. Especially having kids.
Especially having children. So I would say in my 20s and even 30s, or even before I became a father, that I didn't mind it.
Right.
I didn't mind the riffraff. Sometimes you go and you don't mind the wait.
Right.
You don't mind staying after you done got your cut.
Right.
You might even go in there and just shoot the shit. Right. Excuse my French, y'all, but this is the barbershop. That's not the barbershop. And that's why I kind of have taken to the podcast game and industry. And that was my motivation because of these talks in the barbershop. And then if you weren't there,
Right.
you missed out.
Right. Right.
And when it's over, it's over.
Right.
So now that we got these mics, and when we invite these guests, if you miss it, you can just go to the sites,
Right.
Apple, Google, those plugs. I gotta get them in. But no. So back to the question is, so yeah, when I was younger, I it was okay.
Right.
You know, it was entertainment. It was fun.
Right.
It was just something that you accepted.
Right.
So,
And
it might sound contradictory, but 20s, early 30s, I didn't mind. Now I'm,
Right.
40 something. It matters now.
Right, because and that's the era, and you have two boys, and bringing them in, and it's funny because my introduction to the barbershop was at Rose and Taylor, right? So, Mr. Joe Taylor, my Uncle Leroy, Knox, Lum, these guys are in there in their middle age, in our opinion, right? And so they ran it a specific way. It was family oriented. So I got that early. So then when other shops opened up, the Whip, shout out to the Whip as well. It created its legacy. That's where Miel was at. And, shout out to Sean Williams. It was for a younger demographic, and so things were a little different. So for families, you had your choice of where you could go. But as a professional, that Rose and Taylor kind of laid the ground in terms of professional aspect, what grounds and what expectations you set. But, we've had some epic times and had a ball in the barbershop. Some of my most memorable moments have been in barbershop. So, man, it is not only as a barber, but as a client. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's what they say, the black man's country club. So that was our meeting ground. Spent a lot of time there. And like you said, even if you're not getting a cut, just being there, as a barber, man, you sit there, Coach Taylor, being, my sophomore basketball coach, JV basketball coach, man, it was like that was part of his, prior to the pandemic, it was like that was part of his lifeline. 4 out of 5 days at least, he had to come to the barbershop. And I imagine that he'd done that long before I got there. But that was just a space and a place for us to have those conversations. And, everybody's accepted. So, and you want to create that environment where the older gentlemen as well as the younger gentlemen, mothers, kids can all come and everybody can engage and feel comfortable.
Now, I'm going to say something that I don't even want to call it controversial, but I don't think it's a gray area. It's either black or white. You pick a side on where you fall on it.
Okay.
And this is from experience as a child, as well as a adult. Okay. So, not to throw shade at my pops. But he never took me to the barbershop when I was a shorty. Now, your experience was at Rose and Taylor.
And you had Rose and Taylor and Mr. Banks barbershop as well, which was actually right down the same sidewalk. And so on the same side of the street. So those two early years were my experiences with barbershops.
So my experience was Mr. Henry Styles Shop.
Yep.
So that's who cut my hair between Henry and Mr. E. So, like you said, middle-aged barbershop.
Right.
Ran it like that. Waiting room was it was a shop, but it was kind of like a house.
Right.
So the waiting room was kind of in a room.
Right. Which and shout out to Chicken Wang and his crew. They've actually opened up official cuts there, so it still functions as a barbershop today. Back open. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I'm saying that to say, when my mom would take me to go get a cut,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it would just it didn't feel like, you know, it was just, you know, a mother bringing us, you know, taking her son to get a cut. You know, she waited in the waiting room. Everything was, you know, honky dory.
Right.
Fast forward, when we talk about the 18 to 35 demographic shop, and let's just say you got a younger mother taking her child or her son to get a cut, and you got thirsty mugs. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. You're gonna take a side on this, and so you got them thirsty, you know, dudes or people in the shop. You know what I'm saying? Checking out, maybe even trying to holler, and I could just imagine, you know, if it's a female barber, they, you know, they probably get hit on all the time. But and of course, you know, we'll get a chance to speak to a female, some female barbers. But
Absolutely.
But just in terms of this conversation, as a barber, you know, like Lorenz Tate said in Love Jones, I might be in love, but I ain't blind, or whatever. But it's just like,
no, that was his partner said, I'm married, but I'm not blind.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Y'all know where I'm headed. You know. So, but you know, even if the like to me, a barbershop ain't for a woman. And it,
you know,
that didn't sound right, but
no, and I understand, and we don't want the viewers, you know, to get it misconstrued.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like, you know, and I don't think people take that wrong, because it's like I mentioned earlier, it's you know, the men's, you know, black men's country club. It's just like going into a hair salon. I don't think people will take offense to that. Now, there are mothers, you know, unfortunately, because we have a lot of single mothers, so there are mothers who come there.
Yeah, they have to, right.
You know, but when most women come in there, you know, they're not as engaged, and they're not talking, you know, whether it's sports or whatever, they're bringing their kids in, and you want to make them feel welcome, but most women aren't just engaged in you know, in terms of that. So going into a hair salon, it's the same thing. You're not going to see many men just chilling in a hair salon that's you know, that's majority women.
Yeah,
so,
and it didn't come out right.
Yeah, so we know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's like you got to bring your child to get the cut, but it's just like like the stuff that I was hitting at. You know, it's just like,
and big up to all our queens, because you know, without us, there's no them. But yeah, I don't think people are going to get it misconstrued. You know, and for me, when I used to go to the barbershops, what my mother would do was drop me off.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, and times are different, right? So I understand the uncomfort with that now, but back then you had the middle-aged barbers, they duck their head in, you wait in line, because it was like a field trip.
Yeah.
You know, it was way before, you know, Booksy and all these booking apps. You go in there, you don't get there in time. You might spend half of your day in the barbershop on a Saturday, but that was the enjoyment. Like I felt like watching the different personalities. I felt like, you know, some of me learning to be a man came in the barbershop, just my observation. You know, you're a kid, you sit back and take your place, but you know, I'm just observing and watching, you know what I mean? And even as you would say, the thirsty cats, it wasn't like women didn't come in there and they wasn't checking them out. The approach might have been different than it is now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but you know, they had eyes as well. So the approach might have been different, but, you know, they see something nice, you know, you could tell. And so as a kid, you just watching, observing, you giggling, and you're learning at the same time. So, you know, you're absolutely right. And that's the type of environment that, you know, our young men need, as long as, you know, it's a comfortable and safe environment, because it helps them grow. So, yeah, I don't think anybody will take that out of context.
Yeah, I mean, just for people listening, like, I knew exactly. I mean, I knew what I wanted to say, and when it came out, I knew it wasn't I knew it didn't come out the way I just didn't know how to,
Right.
Right.
Because women barbers who are getting it in, some amazing women barbers,
Right.
but they're in all honesty, they're dealing with majority men, a man dominated, field. And so they're cutting more males than females, I'm sure. So, it just goes with the territory. But I totally knew what you meant.
And so, like I say, like now, like my wife, she not comfortable. And,
Right.
dropping the kids off.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I can't, I know it might not, I'm glad she not.
Right. You don't want to be around all them dudes. So
so it's just like, yeah.
So you ain't picking this one up out the barbershop.
So it's just, but it's just, but yeah, I just, that's one thing you see. And it's just, you just, I mean, I've seen some foul shit, and, things that now in hindsight just weren't handled good.
And that's the
from
thing.
The barbers.
And that's the thing. It has to be an expectation across the board.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, from ownership on down, to the newest barber you have, that expectation has to be set, and most barbershops are going to have that, quote unquote manager and to hold things down. You know what I'm saying?
So you spoke about, Booksy and appointments and honestly, I do think it's that's how I want to get down.
Right.
That's just my personal preference. Right. But you coming out of a shop, I have seen, people that just walk in, have to really wait.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate being in a shop without, but still keeping that essence of, come in and get your hair cut or.
Right. And it's the, first of all, before I even go into that, so just you from your personal experience, do you enjoy the appointments more so than you do the walk-in?
I do.
Like your preference?
I personally do.
And so it's funny because, it was funny. So it's this gentleman who is from the town and he's in his 70s and he moved to Boston, Mass. And, he's moved back to the area. So barbershop is packed, right? And this may be about 8-9 months ago. So the barbershop is packed. He comes in, he speaks. He doesn't speak to, in terms of talking to any barber in particular to get his haircut. He's just used to the old Rose and Taylor. He knows nothing about booking. So I have appointments. All the barbers in there have appointments. So person, he keeps seeing people get out the chair. The next person get in. He stands up. He said, "Hey, I know what this is. Don't think I'm like we were trying to take advantage of." And so I had to tell him, I said, "No, sir, we have appointments, sorry, we're not trying to take advantage of you. Nobody's cutting line. We take appointments, but as soon as we can, we'll get you in." And I actually ended up servicing him. And now, I cut him on a regular basis, but he is one of those guys who prefers to call spur of the moment and I squeeze him in, doesn't adjust. I know for us, we would try to work together, right? If it's somebody sitting there, we're knocking our appointments out, but if we get time in between to squeeze them in, or we did have, a couple barbers, Tino, quick with the clippers, get them in, get them out. So he would set appointments and he would also be willing to take walk-in. Shout out to Tino. So you just try to fit them in, but where the advantage the barber gains too is at that period of time, good or bad, it almost forces a client at some point to kind of pick and choose, what barber's team you're going to be in, because you're going to be on, because it's about convenience. Because if not, we have appointments. You can be in there 3-4 hours a day. And everything has evolved. So most people want to get in, get out, and get on to the rest of the day.
Right. Which I think is the way to go.
Right.
But again, it's just like
some people are set in their ways, but I just think at this era, and now with COVID setting in too, from a safety standpoint, it's kind of turned the game, more into the whole appointment thing, right? So, at that point, if you get somebody in your chair and you do a good job and they like it, tell them, hey, I set appointments. I'm on Booksy, teach them how to navigate through Booksy. And from that point in time, they can set appointments. And so that's been very beneficial. But some, still set in their ways and still do those appointments. But we just we made sure, even if it caused us staying late, some of us, we get in there and we'll knock them down.
Right. Is that aspect? I mean, of course, we'll get into COVID shortly, but before we, is that? I mean, a lot of the barbers, not just locally, but a lot of barbers you kind of connecting with via social media. I mean, it really is an appointment only game.
Man, I am all the barbers, man, that I'm communicating with have turned it into appointment only. Some still take walk-ins, but if you can fill up your schedule, because the benefit of being able to, fill up your schedule at one point in time as a barber, and if you're going into a shop and you're a new barber, or in a new geographic area, then walk-ins are very important as you build up your clientele, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, somebody like myself or yourself, most of us, we have children, we have schedules. So what it does is a couple of things. One, it allows you to set your schedule. One of the things, and at some point in time, hope to, have an episode where we talk about health and wellness as it pertains to being behind the chair, because a lot of barbers just racking it up, getting that money. And so, you tend to have bad diets. You don't eat good. You're eating on the run. Sometimes you're not even eating. So me and my wife would get into it where, oh, you didn't eat today. You need to eat. So what she did, she took Booksy on her own, took my phone, and she implemented 30-minute lunches every day. And so it creates a schedule. Two, you have an idea of what you're making. You know what I mean? And so it's easier. So based on your bills and your financial obligations, you have an idea, just like a 9 to 5, this is what I'm going to make for the week. And that's very, very helpful, on top of the fact that when you join like a Booksy, for me, they can give you an Excel spreadsheet of what you made for the past 6 months or the entire year. So when you're talking about filing taxes and so forth, then you have that information too. So it's just evolution, like everything else, man. It's just evolving, and it allows it to be more professional. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's I don't know any barbers that I follow, connect with, or anything that don't set appointments. I'm not saying none of them accept walk-ins, but I don't know a barber that doesn't set any appointments.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I just can't. I can't see just leaving the crib and saying I'm going to get a haircut and then not knowing when I'm up, just not in 2020.
Absolutely. So. It's a different time, and it's really, just paying homage, because it's just like basketball or hip hop or anything. It's evolved. You know what I'm saying? Things are so different. So like the older barbers paved the way for us to do what it is that we do now. And so, you're creating more efficient and effective ways to do business. You know what I'm saying? And that's important, So with that being said, and you usually segue and you do a wonderful job, I just want to get your opinion. from a client standpoint, it would be great at some point in time if, we put out the email or just people commenting who, are following the podcast, because during this COVID time, there have been, a lot of conversation between barbers, man, because, a lot of barbers took a lot of hits, and while it's foolproof, like I mentioned last week, San Francisco, man, it's still not, up and running in barbershops. So the question I have to you, as a client, as somebody who's always gotten your hair cut, you have 2 boys, are and should barbers be considered essential in the workforce?
Yeah. I mean, that's an easy answer. I think so. I think really what, I don't want to say what hurt the barbers is, I think that old school essence or perception of a barber shop is what probably didn't give, not law enforcement, but lawmakers.
Like expound on that, like from what standpoint?
Expound on what the essence of. Yeah. I think the barbershop is perception wise, especially because we don't have very many lawmakers that look like us, because we don't vote like we should, but that's another topic for another day.
Right.
So we don't have that representation when it's time to really make those determinations. And maybe they just saying, hey, how your hair looks, or but if you're an essential worker, then you need to, if you're an essential worker and you work at a restaurant and you're a cook and you are able to stay open, you gotta be groomed. That's just like Lori Lightfoot, the Chicago mayor, took heat for getting a haircut.
But yeah, she has to be on TV every day, every other day. Right.
Yeah. So, where
Pritzker just whip it back, moose it up.
Yeah. Right. So I do think that y'all should be essential workers. But when I say the perception of the old barber is just where people come and sit and wait for hours to get serviced, like you said, those days are pretty much over.
Absolutely.
So the fact that people are just really doing appointments, especially quality barbers. People may not understand that. People might just drive by a barber and just see people sitting, but if it's 7 chairs and you got 8, 9 people, that person probably next. So it's just
And I just to piggyback off that, and I may be biased, but it was a question I wanted to ask you, and just the public in and of itself, and not just for money reasons, but like you said, it was so many essential workers. I was talking to somebody, I was cutting a client's hair, and it was interesting because they use food service as an example because of the sanitation rules and laws that are put in place. It's the same for barbers, and a licensed barber, many people don't know. I mean, we go through a lot of book work. You're dealing with the science of it, bacteriology. We're dealing with sanitization and sterilization. And so there are a lot of aspects of barbering that people don't even understand, because that's one, you're dealing with people up close and personal. You're dealing with all kind of bacteria, so bacteriology. I mean, it goes in depth, and so you're required to receive that knowledge and become licensed. And so if we got to go through these things, then I think, because we deal with person-to-person contact, then I definitely feel like, if food service was open and, they have sanitation rules and they have policies that are put in place and they have to get certifications, then I definitely felt like barbershops, even if it went to a point where say, okay, you couldn't accept walk-ins, you can do appointments. No more than a certain number of people can be in there. Those type of things, right? Because Barberside actually had classes, and a boatload of us barbers went through their classes just, with COVID, dealing with what was in place, what was going on with COVID and practices that were put in place for COVID, but to also brush up on the things that barber school taught. And so people's perception of barbershops is you come in, you get a haircut, and there's no science, there's no education to it. And that's the furthest from the truth. We're professionals, and that's what I like about the evolution is that, finally, barbers are getting their worth, because if everyone could cut hair, there would be no need for barbers.
Right.
So I say that, and I want to lead into another question for you, and then I'll let you take the lead. With that being said, you agreeing that barbers are essential, and we can't be replaced by computers, machines. In today's society, your opinion, what's a good haircut worth these days? I'm putting him on the spot, y'all.
Well, that is a layered, nuanced question. Now, you know what? I don't know. But my official answer would be the only way you'll know is when I just do it myself.
That'll work. Yeah, it's just a question, and we'll dive more into it.
No, for real. No, for real. I'm not gonna go out like that. It's important for me to. It's important for me as a client. It's important that my barber has license.
Okay.
That's important.
Okay.
It's important that the environment is respectable.
Okay.
It's important that when I'm in the chair, the barber does not spend his entire time on the phone.
Right.
I'm not a high maintenance client.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But there will be some expectations. That's what I mean by it's a layered question.
Right. Right.
There will be some expectations if you want to charge premium prices.
Okay.
So I think in this town, based on convenience, because honestly, if I can make an appointment,
Right.
and pretty much walk in, know that I'm next, I will pay more just for that convenience.
Right. And I'm not going up on you. I'm just
No.
I'm just asking, and I agree.
So I would say for all of those things that I outlined, I would say $30 to $45 is the going rate.
Okay.
Now, based on my lack of hair these days, honestly, I probably can't go over 50.
Okay.
Makes just sense. Based on it's just not something that I'm a pay for just getting a clean shave and just
bald
a
head beard, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
but if I had hair and wanted tapers and yeah, I'd pay.
Okay.
I'd pay.
Okay.
I'd pay
Okay.
over $50-$60.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to ask that question, and it varies, and as the craft grows, and like I said, the industry continues to evolve. There's some barbers out there, man, that are making really good money and charging premium prices, but you pay for what you want if the service is worth it to you. But I definitely think that this is an industry where we deserve to be paid our worth based on, like you said, the education, the etiquette, the level of professionalism, and overall quality of service that you provide. So I agree with you. Again, I may be biased, but on the other end, some people, because I had an increase, and I was going to have the increase anyway, but COVID may have sped it up a little bit, right? Because prices, on barber side and things were going up. Companies were gouging. There was a shortage, Lysol wipes, and so you were paying more for these things, right? So it that kind of dictates the scale as well. But I know, my interests over the years, I'm a big barber fan. So we're on social media and you put me on to IG a while ago in terms of the barbers before I even, got on IG and put any of my work on there, or even dealt with it, just going and looking at the barbers. I became a big barber fan. So I'm like a fan. Not only am I a barber, I'm a fan. Like, people got their top, I got my top 3-5, hip hop MCs, my top 3 or 5 NBA players. I also have my top 3 or 5 barbers, so right before the pandemic, I was actually on my way, to me and the wife were headed to Atlanta, go see the Hawks and Thunder play. I wanted to see that face off with Chris Paul and Trey.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had set up an appointment, Hawk the barber, who's a phenomenon. He's young gold in the game and it's really nice. He actually used to cut Jalen's hair too. I don't know if he still does, but he has a surplus of celebrity clients and just clients overall. And so his rates were $125. And, people thought I was a little crazy when we talked about it, but to me, you pay for what you want. And it's also the experience. So for me, I was willing to pay that. But again, I'm a barber and I'm a fan of the barber. I want to be paid. So I have to respect what they do. And he's created through IG that foundation to be able to charge that and people pay it. So who am I to tell him he can't pay it? And I was willing to pay it. I couldn't afford to do it every week, but I was going to treat myself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not anything different than getting a gadget or something,
Man.
you know what I'm saying? A tool.
And
yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand all the things you talked about it. People go by, drinks, or they'll go buy fast food, all those type of things. Like, I just thought about the inflation of even fast food. I remember, man, when we was in high school, you could go to McDonald's extra value meal was $3.21 with tax.
Yep.
The same thing I get now, McChicken, a fry, and a Coke. It was $3.21.
Yeah.
And I'm not old, but obviously I'm telling my age a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to places and you can't get a burger and fries barely for under $10.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Taco Bell original hard shell was 59 cents.
Man, you know what I mean? I went to Hardee's and people don't realize, man, Hardee's got some fire burgers.
Yeah.
But man, I left that paying $12 for a burger, a curly fry, and a drink.
Yeah.
So, as everything moves forward, somebody is giving you their time, their service, setting appointments, convenience. I'm licensed. I'm a professional. All of those things combined together is worth the price of the service, and some people, I can't imagine, man, we pay for what we want to pay for. If you don't think it's worth it, then fine, you don't have to pay it, but I'm not going to, drop my standard because someone else doesn't want to pay it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not going to be astronomically high, but, again, I'm going to know my worth.
Yeah.
So, that's big. And that was just a question I had.
No, I mean, I ain't got no problem with, like I mean, just like you, I got a criteria though, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you don't meet it, then I can't give you that. And we don't have to fight or argue or complain. Like,
Absolutely.
If you want to charge that and somebody give it to you, more power to you.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to sit up here. Like I seen a post a few months ago of a barber that, was washing his client's hair, whipping it up, blow drying it.
Yeah.
And I guess he said the haircut was $100.
The massage, they got the cordless massagers. I mean, it's now enhancements. People want the enhancements, so there are a lot of things in the industry has evolved that's not cheap. You know what I mean?
Remember the show on MTV? I think they was in Queens.
Yep.
And
what was his name? Rooney something had the barbershop. Yeah.
And the brother was coming in there. I don't know, of course it was edited, but I didn't know if he was licensed or not, but he came in there, was looking for a chair.
Yeah.
And the owner, the main barber, the chief barber was kind of hating.
Right.
And so he said, yeah, you bring somebody in here and, cut their hair, what have you. So he brought somebody in off the streets, cut his hair. And then the main barber was kind of hating on him. And then once dude, gave him his little, peace of mind, told him, oh man, you tripping or whatever. So then when the dude left, and I'm going somewhere with this, when the dude left, it's like, man, why you doing like that? That cut was fire. He was like, man, I ain't want him taking my customers. But where I was going with it was, my man laid the dude out, but his clippers was raggedy.
Right.
And so it's just like, that's another thing.
Man.
And this apples and oranges, because dude was just trying to get in the shop. But I'm not getting ready to pay you all this money, and you done stripped the screw trying to tighten the shit. The shit is
clippers missing teeth.
Yeah, man. Like
loud, sound like you got a chainsaw. And all that comes into play. And just a regular client who doesn't follow the industry. They know that there's clippers out there now that looks cool, but man, now, some of these cordless clippers, you're talking about $200 a pop. So I mean, you can get shears, bro, $200-$300. People don't understand what goes into the craft, not just the education, but the maintenance of the clippers, buying the clippers. You know what I mean? And so those things are all important, and it's good for the optics as well. When you come and sit in my chair, I'm not hitting you with no Walmarts, and I'm knocking Walmart, but you gonna get the latest and the greatest clippers. All the materials that I'm using are gonna be top notch. You know what I mean? It's just like growing up playing ball. Wasn't trying to put on no buddies. You want the fly kicks that feel good on your feet. It's the same thing for me. I don't want to just put anything on your head. So So y'all understand, barbers work hard and they should be compensated for what they do.
Right, agreed. So I had to answer the question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I had to answer the question. So I guess my next topic is, now I just said part of my criteria is kind of having attention.
Okay.
No phone, no whatever.
Right.
But again, that's kind of loose,
right,
especially in a shop.
Right.
So I guess I need my barber to walk the line, and it's a fine one, a thin one, between productivity and socialization.
Right.
So as a barber, as a professional, how do you walk that line?
Right.
Whether you in your situation now or when you are in a shop, because it's a lot going on next to you, around you,
everything.
And conversations can really get. Because I can remember a time, in Rose and Taylor, where I'll say it, what I'm saying, and mean it, even though I'm being a little sarcastic. I was bullied by a couple of barbers. Just by having an opinion, and the dialogue went on for a while. And so I don't remember if they actually got a lot done.
Right.
I don't remember if they did get a lot done.
Now, what I do remember is that it was later in the evening, so it wasn't packed, and it was in the day off, and they had clients that they were familiar with. But yeah, I remember specifically that particular situation.
So I guess not to go more in depth, but I think it was a great dialogue,
right?
And I say that sarcastically, like I wasn't bullied to the point where I was just, if they listening, they know what I'm talking about.
So they teamed up on you.
Yeah, but the great dialogue, you can kind of, want to get your piece in, want to contribute, but you still have people that are in there to get their hair cut.
Absolutely.
So how do you walk that line between being social and maintaining the essence of the barbershop and still being productive?
Right. It's funny because I love to debate, and I'm passionate, and so I've had a couple of times where I recognize. I've had one time where I told a client, and me and the client were cool, and he had a meeting. Well, I didn't tell him; he told me. And it was a basketball conversation, and it was hilarious, right? And so one of the things I always do in anything I do is try to look at myself on the other side. So again, I've been the client, right? And so I think it's important to be efficient, and I think you can have those times sometimes where you get a little off course, but it's a skill that's continued to be learned. And that's the beautiful thing with things like Booksy is it creates a schedule. So you have a set amount of time that you have to focus to get that client in that chair, get that client service, clean up, and be able to get to the next client, because people are running on a schedule and they're paying you for that schedule as well. So I think it's important to maintain that professionalism. And like you said, it is a fine line, because that's the beautiful thing being in the shop, right? We're going to talk about subjects. Sometimes it's going to be heated, going to be passionate. Clients have opinions just like the barbers have opinions, but we're there to do a job and provide service. And so for me, I just always try to put myself in that mindset. And it's funny because, the younger generation is a little different, in terms of the social media. So that direct contact, they're not used to that. You know what I mean? Like, we were coming up, you talk to a girl, you had to write the letter, put the box check, yes or no, or you at least had to go talk to her, right? Now you could shoot your shot, you know what I mean, from a million miles away with your thumbs doing the work, right? So I've seen young barbers cut a client's head and have on headphones. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I'm not paying you premium price,
right? Like I couldn't understand. And I'm the old man who's always just ragging. So I said something a couple of times just to kind of because that's one of the things. Because I've seen some in my days, some subpar barbers who have a mean conversation and can engage and have those relationships. And you'll get a client solely for that. Not so much how quality the haircut is, but the personal relationship that's gained. You know what I mean? Because as a barber, we serve in so many capacities to a client. So that engagement is extremely important. And then you get to that point where you have that engagement, they're willing to pay you those premium prices. All of it, comes in, it's bottled up. It's a package deal. And some of them, don't understand. So that engagement, that fine line, being on your phone every other second. I had a client tell me, one of his old barbers, every time he had something to say, he'd turn off his clippers, in the middle of a conversation. So he couldn't multitask. He couldn't cut, and still engage. He has to cut. And so, like, man, that's a pet peeve. And so you got to be mindful of that. People are on a time limit, and you're on a time limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's just, and for the listeners, I'm not checking scores. If I got my notes in my notes app. So if the YouTube viewership is watching and saying, why is he always on the phone? And, sometimes, I get these notifications on my watch. Now that is something that's not planned, but I'm not checking scores. We are taping this on a Sunday, so I could care less about what's going on in the NFL. I got my notes at. So
technology at its finest.
So yeah, we talking productivity and socialization. No, I'm on task.
Right.
So we're an hour in. We just made an hour in. I don't have to go too long.
Right, absolutely.
But just get a couple of points that we talked about. Get a couple more things out and just call it one. Not that I'm in a rush.
Right.
But
right. You want to be able to keep the viewers' attention.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we talked about it last week, and I think it will be a theme, going forward. But just you cut your way out to, again, hour in, come away out podcast. Again, everywhere where you can listen to podcasts, download, subscribe, comment, rate. We appreciate it. We'll take it all. We'll eat it all. As far as, if it's something that you want us to improve on, if it's something we could do better. Content.
If you're interested in certain content.
Yes, certain topic. So
constructive criticism.
So yeah. Let's just get these other points out and we'll call it one. So you cut your way out.
Absolutely.
to job security.
Absolutely.
Per se.
And I would say more to independence.
Freedom. Yeah.
You know what I mean? People ask everybody, what freedom is. You look at slavery and it was chains and shackles, and what's freedom. I mean, you think even, and I'm not knocking anybody who works a 9 to 5 because I did it for a long time, but you just think it's all relative, right? What do we call the people who supervise us?
Boss. Right, our boss, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm a grown man. I don't have a boss. I have a supervisor.
Right.
You can't force me to do anything, right? There may be consequence. I might not have a job. I might not be able to pay my bills at the moment if I choose to go another route, but nobody is my boss. And so I cut my way to independence. I cut my way to a better state of mind. You know what I mean? I cut my way into entrepreneurship because my other ideas start parlaying into other ideas. You know what I mean? So for me, that was cutting my way out. You know what I mean?
And obviously you don't take it for granted.
Absolutely.
But it can be easy to be taken for granted.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how do you tell a young whippersnapper with a little talent, with some skill, maybe even a buzz, no pun intended, because clippers buzz,
right.
Not to take it for granted? Because, not to name names,
right.
Locally,
right.
but, we see some of these younger guys
just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important because part of my journey, right, is trying to figure out my purpose. And the truth of the matter is, like the whole podcast, and this is why you love podcasting, right? Not only you hit me with something, you said, man, we do this, our voices will remain forever. And that was something that didn't hit me right then. You know what I'm saying? It didn't soak in till this week, like how powerful that is, right? But we take things for granted and don't understand on the back end, we have to play catch up. So being able to identify something you're passionate about and something you do well at a very early age is a game changer, because most people go punch a clock, not because they're great at it, not because they want to do it, because they don't have a choice. It pays the bills. You know what I mean? For me, I had a number of children, so that was the sacrifice. So it's important to create that foundation early, so on the back end, you're not playing so hard, right? It's one thing to be 20, 25, 30 years old, cutting, 12 hours a day and grinding and getting that money and doing the right thing with it. But you can really create, especially in the era we live in now, financial stability for yourself. This is a trade. Everybody doesn't go to college. Like I said, at the end of the day, everybody can't cut hair. And so if you can do this well and you have all of those aspects together, man, you can make a really good life for yourself. And so that's the thing. Take it for granted. Easy come, easy go. Make good money, spend a lot of money, but focusing in that craft and setting money to the side, creating an IRA, and these are things that we'll talk about, finances, but you can really set your future at a young age. And a lot of these young guys don't get it. And then when they're my age and they're still searching for their passion, or they're not in the position they want to be in, you spent 20 years playing around where you could have created a foundation and some stabilization for yourself.
So, personal question.
Mm-hmm.
Barbers spend a lot of hours on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's probably tiring a lot of days, maybe especially long days.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? Physically. I know you mentioned that it can get to the point where you not maybe eating healthy, but just did doing those other things, having another career for those years, did that kind of preserve your feet, your legs, your lower extremities to the point where you can do this? You still have miles on those feet?
Absolutely. I've been doing it for a while, but like you said, on a part-time schedule, right? But I think years of being an athlete probably has helped. I'm not in the best condition. This pandemic, I probably gained another 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And so that's never good. But being a barber, man, and I didn't realize it, man. Me and Miel was talking one day, and like, man, you think this is easy work? You just because you come here and we can chop it up and we can politic. Like, man, this is work. And so now I may have 2-3 days a week, man, where I'm sleeping with a heating pad on my back. But it comes with the grind, and I have to do a better job, just better eating and exercise and those things, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not at this point in time. But the beautiful thing is my state of mind is in a whole different place. And so even those long days, when I'm done and I clean up, I'm so appreciative because I'm doing it my own way.
I can see it in your eyes,
know what I mean?
man. When I come through,
Right.
even when you was at the shop, now that you're back, at your domain. And honestly, I think that your family, they appreciate it,
Right.
So, okay, just something that, like, give. What's the best shoe that's worked for you for barbering? We all know like the Jordan 11s and the Jordan 4s, or we can have those hoop conversations and talk sneakers and what's the best shoe to hoop in. What's the best shoe that you barber in?
Man, it's so crazy, man, because I see guys, man, and maybe it's the long years of being an athlete, but I see some of these guys hard bottoms and Jordans, some of them I think the most uncomfortable shoe, right? For me, I wear a lot of Brooks Beast, and young cats be looking, man, what you got on your feet? I said, man, look, this costs as much as a Jordan do. Bro, I'm just, I'm at that stage where my feet are more important than how fresh I look. I can go home and my dog's barking. It's funny because sometimes, man, Los would go over to the side, man, pull off them shoes and let them feet breathe, man, because it's grueling, man. You put in 12, 13 hours on your feet, man, your feet are hurting. But the most comfortable shoe that I've ever cut in is a slip-in Croc.
Okay.
I see why I'm telling you, my feet are wider, man. I see why the health industry, wears them. Man, that's the most comfortable shoe that I've put on. Does wonders for my back, my legs, my knees, and wasn't not necessarily an idea. I had a couple pairs. I said, man, I'm getting this blister on my feet. Let me try something different. And that was the most comfortable shoe I've cut in.
It's funny, man. I'd consider myself a Kanye stan, but he's coming out with a Yeezy that I think he coming for Crocs. I'm gonna have to show you the shoe.
Okay.
But people call it a prison garb looking shoe, but I tried to get it.
Okay.
Of course I'm not gonna pay I'm over 35, so I'm not paying aftermarket, but it was $55 and I didn't win it and it sold out. But yeah. I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. A Croc.
Yeah, that Croc was it's one wonderful shoe.
And so 13 hour days. Do you know the most cuts you've ever done in a day?
I really don't. If I had to guess, I would say between 15, 17, maybe 20. During the holidays, it gets heavy. You know what I mean? And one of them type guys, especially in the barbershop when you had walk-ins and whatnot.
You're just knocking them out. Don't even count.
Right. Yeah. It's holiday time. Money is imperative for everybody, and a haircut is imperative for everybody. So between that Thanksgiving time to the, New Year's Eve, those holidays, and of course, 4th of July, man, I mean, cracking. So, probably, I would say, between 17, probably 20. Long day though.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can it's two more things.
Right. We can wrap it up.
We're an hour and 13. Yeah. And so, renting a chair or booth rent versus going to like Supercuts or like, have you ever considered anything other than renting a chair at a shop?
Rent a chair? Well, absolutely not. For me, one of the biggest things for me cutting at home so long was the thought of going back into the shop and paying booth rent, because you figure, all the overhead goes to you and what you need to take care of at home, right? But the benefit of going into the shop is that you opened yourself up to the public. So I gained so many more clients between that and using IG, just, gained an enormous, clientele that I'm extremely thankful for and honored, right? But some people do some barbershops do commission. Like flirted with the idea of going to cut in Georgia. And I know I was speaking in even Arizona, where mom resides. So was looking and coming in, they do, 70-30 splits, things of that nature. And so I'm not a fan. And some people like it because no matter what you make that day, then they feel it balances out, right? To me, I can't, it's hard for me to fathom the thought of giving somebody a percentage. And I guess ultimately you give a person a percentage, but just a thought. I prefer booth rent. Some people like a super cuts and those type of things. I think the difference for those type of barbers, or those barbers or hairstylists that prefer that, is the security in terms of benefits. Because if you're not in a situation, if your significant other, if you have a significant other, doesn't have a great insurance plan, it can be rather expensive getting insurance. The market, it can all be extremely expensive. And it almost seems like, it's intentional from the government that they want you to work for these corporations, because it's so much more expensive to work for yourself and have those insurances. So I think the main thing, because those type of companies aren't allowed to charge what other barbers are charging and take that home. They get a percentage of that, but then, the owners, or if they're chains, they're saying, okay, well, we're taking care of the insurance. You may not have to pay this or pay that. So that's the biggest difference.
I just thought of something. I mean, could you imagine the type of clientele that comes through, like Rose and Taylor or the Whip in their heyday, to go to Supercuts?
No, not at all. No. And people don't. A lot of people don't know. It's funny because Miel, for maybe about a week, less than a week before going to the Whip, actually worked in a setting like that, and we had the conversation. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you done rocked out in your mom's garage for all these years. You cutting all the South Hills, and for those who don't know, we're talking in regards to Champaign, Illinois. That's where we're located. But he's cutting all these people's, all these clients. Like, man, you're gonna go. You built this clientele, and you're gonna go give somebody all that. I think he was getting like $10, $11 an hour. I'm like, man, what are you doing? In all actuality, that first day, the grand opening at the Whip that Sean opened, Miel wasn't in attendance. He came, a little bit after that. I'm like, man, well, the insurance, I said, I understand that, but man, your clientele, the type of money you can get, you'll pay your own insurance, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So he ended up hitting the Whip, and him and Sean done their thing, and a host of other barbers through the years, and laid it down, and and until he left us in 2002.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it off wax. We might as well talk about it on wax, but just the etiquette, as a client, that did, even in my 20s, that kind of, pissed me off, where, somebody would come in there and they willing to, at that time, pay a premium price, and then all of a sudden you just get bumped.
Man, that was that was a pet peeve, and to be honest with you, whenever I paid Miel, it was a tip, because he never charged me, right? But we would have talks, because he only worked a couple jobs. He worked at Chi-Chi's, which was a restaurant, and he worked at Cap and Gown for a very limited time. So barbering was very, very good to him up until the day he passed. It was very good to him, and he was very good at what he done, right? But not having that experience in organizations that, train and customer service being important, a lot of barbers don't get that a lot of times. So a lot of times they're looking at the money aspect. And while money drives everything, when I think of it, okay, I say, it's a cat in the streets. He's getting his money, or even if it's not a street cat, somebody coming and you have an appointment or you've been waiting. At that time, we didn't have appointments. They were just, people were waiting, right? And so you have people waiting 3 hours, and now you're waiting 3 hours. Somebody comes in and say, man, I got something to do. Can I buy the chair? Man, I'll give you $50. And then that just moved you down. Like the professionalism, and what I would always tell them, those type of people aren't going to be around long. Whether you was in the streets and you got caught up, but people who didn't value, professionalism, being prompt and being loyal. Those guys will jump off that bandwagon. If it's somebody else cutting, they'll go to whoever they can get in. You get clients who are willing to wait and they're being patient and they have schedule. You might have that client for the next 30 years. And so, even though I didn't pay, we had numerous conversations where we would have disagreements because I'm like, okay, I want you to get your money. But man, I'm in the workforce, bro. So if I come and I've been waiting here and I need to get a haircut and then somebody just comes and pays, you're going to punish me because I can't afford to pay you $50? Like, come on, bro. Like, you have to respect everybody. You're providing a service. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that used to kill me too. I'm like, man, and you would see some people would be angry. Some people would exchange words, and I know I've heard in big cities when cats would do that, they say, okay, it was kind of the barbershop etiquette is that they would allow cats to buy the chair, but only if he said, okay, I'm willing to pay you extra as a barber, but how many you got down? I'll take care of y'all cut too.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Now that might be worse.
Right. So you know what I mean?
But then again, that's contradictory though.
You're right. But but if you set that into play, now you're giving those clients some say so too. So It's just not about me. So if you come and you're willing to pay me $50 for the cut and you're going to take care of everybody's haircut and they agree to it, now you've gotten okay. The customer has it their way if they're okay with it. Yeah. But just the hot lines is something different.
Yeah. And another thing, and this goes back to the shop experience. Mm-hmm. So let's just say you have an etiquette. Mm-hmm. Let's just say you have 4 or 5 chairs occupied. Okay. Do shops come up with a can barbers charge what they want to charge, or is that bad etiquette?
No, because I think different barbers, and that's that, and it's interesting because I don't know how it worked back in the day, but different barbers bring different skill sets, right? And I think that's what makes a great barbershop. So you might be the premier dude, now you got the airbrush, they're hitting you with all the enhancements, the parts, you might have people like at Rose and Taylor, Tino specialized in designs. That wasn't everybody else's strong point to the point he could do it. So should he charge what we charge? That's his specialty.
No, right. I'm saying,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think, and that's also the benefit with the appointment process is because once you put it up, when they're booking, they know what you're charging. And so really what barbershops are using price lists for are walk-in clients.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
But now you talk about convenience. So if I'm charging you $25 as a walk-in and I say, okay, I need $35, what's it worth to you?
Right.
He came in and he waited for 3 hours, or she waited, 4 hours for her son. You come in here and you didn't wait a second. You walked in, took a seat, and 5 minutes later, it was your turn to be in the chair. What's that worth to you?
Yeah, it's worth more than, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because because really I'm just going off of what I experienced and just trying to put a show together. Right. But there was a new barber. I'm not going to even say it. I'm not even going to say the shop. Mm-hmm. There was a new barber. He was, pretty good barber. Okay. Still getting it in. I know y'all didn't see that, but so when he was trying to grow his clientele. He was charged a little less.
Right.
So it got to the point where Cass was like, man, he gets it in.
Right.
So he kept his price that low for a minute.
Right.
So he got to stealing customers.
Right.
Not, like dude said,
Free agents.
Right. So some of his colleagues weren't happy that, for standard cuts, and at the time this was Walkin,
Right.
they had a problem with it.
Right.
They're like, not only is you one of the best barbers in here,
Right.
you charging less.
Right.
So people were going to wait.
Right.
So you got a whole line of people
Right.
waiting on you, not only because you
can get down, but also you got the cheaper price. Yeah.
So is that, I mean, and his whole thing was, man, I used to sit in my chair and ask somebody, ask customers, do you need a cut? I can take care of you.
But I don't agree with that because you're cornering the market, so to say. You know what I mean? And what you're also doing, you're driving down the craft. So if you're putting out super quality, you putting out premium quality, but getting average prices, you're driving down the market as a whole. You know what I mean? So the ability for barbers to continue to increase, you're knocking everybody down. You may be getting your money, but it's interesting because I had an idea who you were talking about, but now that same guy has had some severe back issues. Over the course of the years. So you think of the quantity you're pulling in, and that could play a role potentially, but you're driving down the market.
Yeah.
So you're not even getting your worth for what it is you bring to the table.
Right.
So that's a tough one, man. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Well, I think we covered a lot.
Man, we did, man. Hope everybody enjoyed, and we touched some good topics, man. Going into the next taping, we should have a surprise for, just the community, but also barbers in general, because we're going to get to see barbering from its kind of its origin to its evolution to where we are now, and really be able to appreciate this gift. So
nice.
So yeah, looking forward to it, and as told you guys, and we'll tell you guys again and again, we're not politicians. We don't tell you who to vote for, how to vote. We just ask that everybody get out there and vote. It's imperative, man. We're in some very, very trying times, man. And we just feel as we sit here and we do something we're passionate about, we also have the responsibility to put that message across, because we do, we do have the privilege of being available on various platforms. So please go out and vote. It's getting close to that time.
Yeah, I'm going to vote this week.
It's getting close to that time.
Yeah, so
it's getting close to that time.
I Uber, and I picked up a brother that worked at the post office, and he was just like, look, if you don't, he was like, look, and this was a couple days ago, and it was late. And he was like, yeah, people using it, and it's taken very serious. Right. Our post office is really not possible, and if a ballot or envelope is not right, we contacting, the sender.
Okay.
So,
I got to go stand in that line.
I have a ballot, but I was told that I would be able to take that ballot and go to the site and vote.
Okay. I'm going to stand in that line.
But
maybe a superstition. I'm going to stand in that line.
Are you familiar with what's going on with Cube and just
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I know we right. We just vibing, and that's a good, way to take it out. It was interesting, man, because I seen some people post on social media. They were disappointed, so on and so forth. So I got a chance to watch Friday CNN. He was on with Chris Kuma.
Right. I haven't seen that. I saw he was on with Roland Martin.
And he cleared it up and he was stern and to the point. And he talked about how, for me, first and foremost, I didn't have a problem with it because at the end of the day, whether you're working with somebody or not, if you have something that's for the people and going to benefit, African Americans in this country, and we know where things stand, and we know the wealth gap, we know the education gap, we know all these things, right? So the only way to push the envelope is for somebody who has power and he doesn't need any of those administrations. Cube is good.
Right.
He's built wealth. He's built the legacy. You know what I mean? He's good. But what he said, they reached out to him, wanted to meet. Now, we know that both of them are looking for our vote, and it's important to them. If we come out the way we should in Groves and vote, the vote is important to them.
Yeah.
So Trump and his administration wanted to meet early. Biden and his administration said, we'll wait until after the election. So maybe they're saying, okay, after the election, we'll get some things on board. But currently, Trump and his administration are in power. He's the president, whether we like it or not, right?
It made sense.
So
it made sense for both sides to
So if you ignore him now, so if you ignore him now, and then he potentially is still in office for another 4 years, you're not going to be able to push any agenda for the betterment of our people. You're just not going to be able to. So it was smart.
I thought so too.
You know what I mean? We have to have a seat at the table, and we could talk politics all day, but Cube and where he has come from and to, man, I'm a supporter of that brother. And if we don't have a seat at the table, if we don't have somebody who can look these people in the eye, it was interesting because he said, look, still to this day, I've never met Trump.
Right.
I talked to his people because they wanted to talk to me. I'm not working with anybody, and I'm not choosing sides. At the end of the day, to push our agenda, to bridge this wealth gap, because we can't make it another 100 years in the position that we are in as Black people, I have to be able to work with who's in power.
Right.
And
it made sense for Biden's camp and Trump's camp to move the way they moved. It did. So, and Cube did not announce it. It was people in Trump's campaign, and one of the brothers is from Danville, Illinois, that sent out a tweet about it.
They're trying to get to that vote.
Right. So they're trying to get to the vote.
We know the agenda.
So we know the agenda. Honestly, I don't trust him. I know Cube. I don't think Cube trusts him.
But Cube mentioned it wasn't even about trust. He's trying to push something for the betterment of people, and the only way that you can do it is dealing with who's in power, and it's as simple as that.
And I mean, just the whole, even the first stimulus package, even though we got crumbs, they came up with what, $2 trillion, very easy.
And you posted something on social media, Dr. Umar Johnson. It was plain as can be. You don't have to like a person to be in business with them.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, Dr. Umar has his social media perception is kind of wishy-washy. He got a lot of one-liners and a lot of, people don't take him serious. But, you know, at Nick Cannon's class with Dr. Umar, he was spitting, you know, so.
Yeah. So
you know,
go check that out as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, we don't want to ride the politics wave, but we definitely want to speak on some topics, man. We want to be diverse, and man, we got to get out there and vote. It's plain and simple.
So
it's plain and
simple.
simple.
I'm gonna vote this week. I was leaning on writing Kanye in, but I don't know enough about his vice president, and I don't think you could run a campaign solely on Christianity. So, I mean, I will say I'll probably most likely vote for Biden on the president, but I am taking a long time because I do want to vote, educate. I want to have an educated vote on some of the other elections, especially locally.
And I was going to say, well, we have to also consider, even though, you know, we got to move and we got to, you know, we got to move, we got to strategize, you know, and mobilize, as Killer Mike would say. But we also have to understand that our local election ultimately affects us more than the national election.
The people that's holding up the second stimulus is on this ballot. So you know, House of Representatives and, you know, senators, like they holding it up.
Right. Can't say it enough. Have to vote. You know, we don't want to run.
You finna vote for Kanye? Excuse my use of the N-word, but you finna. But I just don't know enough about his VP. I'm not gonna use his mental health to weaponize against him. He makes great music, great art. He's a billionaire, so he fits. Listen. We out. I cut my way out. Episode in the books. Thank you for listening.
We greatly appreciate you. Support our journey. Going to keep it coming. We're celebrating the barbering industry and culture. Coming up, we'll have some interesting interviews that we think you guys will definitely enjoy. Just we talk about this evolution, you know, of the barbering industry, and you know how others outside of myself, you know, are cutting their way out, and how these opportunities are parlaying into other opportunities with entrepreneurship and so on. So we enjoy you all. Be blessed.
Absolutely. So that's a wrap. We out of here.
Put some respect on my name.
Peace, y'all.